everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're kicking off a little self-imposed challenge where I'm going to be making something every week. Making a garment once a week. It could be a hat, or it could be like knitting a hat, or it could be pants, a sweater, whatever. It could be a variety of different things, but I have to make one thing at least every week and document it on YouTube. So that means more consistent uploads and more consistent sewing, and also some accountability and just showing you what I've got. So that's what's to come, and today I'm going to be talking about my latest make, the Bisque trousers from Vivienne Xiaochen. Before we get into that, if you are interested in knitting, sewing, and making a handmade closet, then you will want to follow along for my journey, and without further ado, let us get into the review of this past week's make. So as I mentioned, this past week I made the Bisque trousers from Vivienne Xiaochen. Now this is, I guess, the third pair. I wouldn't count the toile in those three, so we'll say like two makes. One of them was a pair of wool trousers, and the other were a pair that I made this past week, which was in bull denim. So quick little recap, I tested for her the Bisque trousers, and the first pair I made was this lovely Italian wool. It was so soft. I got it from Riverside Textiles, or Riverside Fabrics, I believe, and I'll list that all in the description box. But I really love these trousers. I knew I wanted like a cozy winter pair of pants, and making them in wool, just like, I knew immediately that that was something that I really wanted to do. And I'm so happy that I did, because they're so cozy. They feel like fancy sweatpants, like elevated fancy sweatpants. And I really love wearing them. They're super comfy, and they can be like dressed up and down really easy. They just make everything look really classy, especially because of like the dark gray color. So I'm really happy with those. I cut a straight size 4, and I used a like thick elastic, which I think was a good call for them. It was like she calls for a 2-inch elastic, kind of like this, but it was a bit more dense and a bit more, I guess, like firm in its stretch. This is like quite loose of a stretch. So anyways, I think I will next time try to get more of that elastic, because I did like that better. So I cut a straight size 4, used that elastic, and then I cut 2 inches off of the bottom. And I really like how they turned out, but I was feeling like the rise could be a little bit higher, so I could keep that kind of like drop crotch, drop waist sort of style, or drop crotch, I don't know what that's called, drop crotch? Anyways, I did want to keep that, so I, for this next pair, decided to make a few changes. Before we get into that, I do want to show you how I style these wool trousers that I first got. I've already worn them a handful of times, and I think they're a really like great transition piece from fall into winter. I thought about lining them, and I still might, because they're just a teeny bit itchy. But overall, like pairing these with a pair of like flats or Converse for like a cool sort of like laid back look. I love it with like a structured jacket, or like a little peacoat for the winter with like a matching hat or something. I think the possibilities are endless, and I'm just like super excited to keep wearing these. They're definitely like my warmest, comfiest pants ever. So I'm going to be getting so much use out of them, and like I love a pair of pants that doubles as like sexy, comfy, classy lounge pants. Like we're all about looking chic, but being extra comfy. For the next pair of trousers, I made it in a 10-ounce bull denim from Blackbird Fabrics. Again, I cut a straight size 4, and also the tapered leg version. I think view A it is, but it's the tapered leg. And I wasn't sure about these. Honestly, once I started to make them, they were kind of looking to me a bit like hospital scrubs, just like that color, like that dark navy, and like the kind of silhouette was feeling like scrubby to me. But like I continued on, and I decided to like just stick with it and see how it would go. So I cut the straight size 4, but I did add 2 inches to the rise, and then I cut 2 inches off of the inseam. So I ended up getting that like ultra high waist that I really wanted, still have that drop crotch, I think that's what it's called. Anyways, have a little bit of that, but still have it sit around my ankles, which is like my comfy length. I did cut a bit too much, and I found the bottom, like the hems shifted while I was sewing, so they weren't exactly even, so I had to cut off a bit more than I initially planned. So instead of doing like a thicker sort of hem, I ended up doing just like a rolled hem, but I do like how it looks, and I'm happy with all of that. So these are the pants. They have a contrast pocket, so I did want them to be all one color, but I didn't have like a fabric that was similar enough in color to the blue, so I went with an over dyed cotton that I dyed earlier this year. And I don't mind the contrasting pocket. I think it's like just enough color that like it kind of makes it fun and gives a bit more like attention to the slanted pockets. And I do love the slanted pockets. I think that's my favorite thing about the pattern, is how the slanted pockets look with the pleats in the front. But I will also say that the slanted pocket construction is probably one of the more challenging aspects of the pattern. Just I find the instructions are a bit fiddly. I also I messed it up like 3 times. It's not like Vivian's fault in the instructions. It's just like a bit more, you have to really pay attention to like what side is which and all of that. And it did cause me some problems. And also one thing that I kept forgetting was, because I lengthened the rise, I also had to lengthen the length of the pocket bearers, which is the piece that helps keep the pocket in place if you're using a heavier denim or like a heavier fabric. And because of that, I had to cut it out 3 times because I kept forgetting to lengthen it every time I cut it. So that's my bad. I don't usually make a lot of modifications, so when I do, I have to remember to like keep it consistent across all the pattern pieces. But in the end, I finally did get it, and it was a little fiddly, and I was feeling a little frustrated by the end, and it took me a bit longer than it should have taken me, because the first ones I sewed up in like a breeze, but it's all good. It all turned out, and I'm really happy with it. For how I would style these, I have them on today with this like really cozy knit sweater, which I'm really happy about, and it just feels really good together, and I like the contrasting, the blue with the warm tone of this tan sweater. But when I bought this blue fabric, I really envisioned it with a sweater that I recently knit, and I'll show it here. I wanted that sort of like monochromatic look, but broken up just a little bit because of the lighter flecks in the sweater. So it's that like deep, like kind of like petroleum blue, or like a deep like navy with like lighter flecks of like a steely gray blue. And I think paired with the trousers and with my like black or my blue navy, my blue like suede flats or black boots, I think it's just like really sharp looking, and that feels like really me. Paired with like a blue beanie, I think would like complete the look. I think that outfit with the sweater and the trousers and the flats or boots and like a beanie, I think I'm gonna actually use the same yarn. So this is the Knitting for Olive Merino. I think I have some extra of this, so I think I'm gonna use just this darker color and make a hat. And I'm really excited to do that because I think it's just like, I love this yarn, and I think having a hat in that navy color will be perfect, and it will tie nicely with the sweater. But I also have many items in my wardrobe that it will work well with, including winter coats. And while I'm showing the sweater, I thought that I would talk a little bit about it because it is a recent make as well, and why not include it in this little roundup. So it's the Claude sweater from Colibri by Joanna Knits, and I was testing for her, but I unfortunately didn't finish the sweater on time for her testing, but I did finish it eventually. And this is my first time seaming a sweater together, so I had never actually taken 4 panels and knit them individually and then seam them together. And truthfully, this is not my favorite method. I think because, you know, what's nice about knitting top down, or at least knitting in the round, is that you can see the sweater come together and it actually looks like something, which motivates you to finish it. Whereas for this sweater, you knit 4 panels, and so it just kind of feels like you're building up to it, but it's not going anywhere. But finally, when I got to the last sleeve, I started to see how it would all come together. And once I started seaming it together, I really fell in love with the shape. It fits me perfectly. The sleeves are the exact length. The torso is like exactly cropped the way that I love it. It's perfect. And honestly, I was a little nervous because when you're knitting it in 4 panels, like, that's it. Like, you know, you can't really add on more or less without taking things apart. So I'm really happy with the fit, and I recommend this pattern if you're a beginner knitter and want to learn how to make a sweater and seaming the sweater together. It's not complicated. It just takes, it can be a little fiddly and take a little bit of like extra thought, but 100% worth it. You should definitely try it out if you're thinking about it. And knitting it in merino and mohair, these are the 2 that I use. So this is light petroleum blue and this is deep petroleum blue from Knitting for Olive. Highly recommend. It was just like such a luxurious feeling yarn, and I'm so excited to continue to wear this. I've already worn it a few times and it has not been quite warm enough to need to do that. So that's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, a little sneak peek, I'm going to be making this vintage pattern and I'm super excited about it, and I won't tell you any more other than, like, look at these shirts. They're so cool. I cannot wait to get into this. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to see more of my stuff, definitely check out my Instagram. I post everything there first generally, and also like behind the scenes stuff. And then my TikTok is always kind of like a shorter video diary of what I'm making and little niche sewing and knitting jokes. Thanks so much. See you soon. Bye bye.